Whilst from the outside, a meltdown and a tantrum can look quite similar, there's substantial differences between a meltdown and a tantrum, and they are really, really important to know. A tantrum is a goal-based, like a goal-orientated based behaviour. So for example, it's this like extreme outburst of aggression or frustration because a goal-orientated based situation hasn't happened. So say a child wants more time on their iPad and they don't get the extra time on their iPad, then behaviour happens. And that's like a tantrum beginning because, and here's the key, if then the goal-oriented action is given, so say you're like, I can't be dealing with that behaviour, you're like, fine, have more iPad time, then the behaviour immediately stops. So a tantrum is a big sudden outburst of behaviour that is fully based around a goal-oriented action, that behaviour immediately stops or subsides whenever that goal is given in that situation. A meltdown is an intense response of an overwhelming situation. So an individual who's in meltdown is overwhelmed by something that is going on. It's all reached too much, and temporarily it feels for that individual that their behaviour is out of control. They're not in control of what they're doing anymore. For neurodivergent individuals, we'll see meltdowns quite a lot, and that might be due to a whole host of different reasons. Perhaps it's exhaustion, burnout, anxiety, sensory processing, lots and lots of different situations that might be happening that leads to a meltdown. Their brain switches into survival mode. They must survive in that experience. Everything has become too much. A meltdown has begun, and the brain just switches off from their prefrontal cortex, which is that bit of our brain that works at reasoning, problem solving, rationalizing, attuning to a human voice, being able to process language. That bit of our brain switches off, and then it's just survival mode. And in that survival mode meltdown, it is really, really difficult to be able to connect with that young person, because that is that feeling of completely overwhelmed and completely out of control. When a child or young person has reached meltdown, so they're now in that survival state of their brain, our most important tasks as the adult is to keep that child or young person safe. So we have to focus on regulate first and solve later, rather than figuring out what's gone on, what's caused this in that moment. When a child is in meltdown, our key and primary focus is to keep them safe. Meltdowns are really scary experiences for an individual who is personally experiencing it. That feeling of being completely out of control of your own body and your own actions. As adults, we have to show that child or young person this is survivable. You will get through it because I am here with you. So the key approach in this is regulating. Regulate first, solve later. And that might look like a variety of different things. It might be like a safe hands approach. So like tight pressure on it, like deep pressure on a child or young person, sitting within a close distance to them, and just being present within that space. Or it might be something like getting them a quick little snack or a juice or something like that to help immediately meet basic needs of containment and regulation. Might be like gentle rocking, underweighted blankets. That's all focused on regulating first rather than bombarding with questions of what's happened, what's wrong. That's for later. We have to help them survive in that moment. We as their adults are their co-regulator. Here's the catch. Although there are key differences, like I've just explained, between a meltdown and a tantrum, and there really, really are, because I've witnessed it, and when you know a child really, really well, you'll be able to tell that's a meltdown or that's a tantrum. That's a what response, it's an out of control response or it's a decided response in that situation that control is still kind of over. You will know it when you know a child really, really well. So I've seen the differences. So meltdown and tantrum, they are different, but here is the catch. At the base of both of these behaviours, whether that is meltdown or tantrum, the brain for that individual is going into shutdown. It's going into survival mode. And even a tantrum is a child or young person's way of like resetting their brain, trying to reset their nervous system. If you imagine it's that point of when a child reaches in tantrum that they're like gasping for air nearly, or they're going like, and they're breathing and they're crying. And that's their brain reaching a point that they're like, hey, I really need you to reset here. Like reach a point and then fully reset, fully regulate right the way back down. The good thing about that is that the same approach will work for both. So whether it's a meltdown or a tantrum, rather than standing there and being like, which is which, same approach. Regulate and then solve. If the child is in a meltdown, regulate. If a child is in a tantrum, regulate, because their bodies are now dysregulated and we have to be their co-regulator in those moments. So remember, regulate first, solve later. There are key differences, but our approach can be the same.